The security guard's hands move roughly through Maya Johnson's designer purse as dozens of wealthy patrons watch from their dinner tables. Crystal chandeliers cast harsh shadows across the opulent ballroom of the Grandeur Plaza Hotel, where an elegant charity gala has devolved into something much uglier. "She stole Mrs. Harrison's diamond bracelet." Richard Sterling, the hotel manager, points an accusatory finger directly at Maya. "Search everything. Check every pocket." Maya stands perfectly still, her spine straight and shoulders squared, but her dark eyes flash with barely contained fury. "I suggest you check the security cameras before making accusations," she says, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. Margaret Harrison, a wealthy white woman draped in pearls and privilege, continues her theatrical sobbing. "My Cartier bracelet is gone. It's worth $50,000. Someone here took it." Her eyes dart meaningfully toward the handful of black guests scattered throughout the overwhelmingly white crowd. Near the back of the ballroom, Dr. Patricia Williams watches the scene unfold with growing alarm. Something about Maya's face nags at her memory, a familiarity she can't quite place. The crowd of charity donors whispers among themselves, creating a buzz of judgment and speculation. Some record the confrontation on their phones, while others simply stare with expressions ranging from uncomfortable voyeurism to outright suspicion. Richard's voice drips with condescension. "We've searched everywhere else. The only logical conclusion is that one of our questionable guests is responsible." Maya turns toward one of the phones, capturing the moment, her gaze direct and unflinching. "Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing blatant racial profiling in action. This is what discrimination looks like in 2025. But who exactly is Maya Johnson? And why does her face seem so familiar to those who know where to look? 2 weeks earlier, Maya Johnson sits behind an enormous mahogany desk in her corner office overlooking Manhattan. At 42, she is the CEO of Sterling Hospitality Group, having built an empire of luxury hotels across 3 continents through intelligence, determination, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. The charity invitation in her hands makes her smile. The annual Children's Education Charity Gala. Having grown up in public housing herself, Maya understands the transformative power of education better than most of her peers. David Chen, her chief financial officer, enters the office. "The Children's Education Gala invitation. That's the biggest charitable event of the year. Are you planning to attend?" Maya's eyes light up with enthusiasm. "Education changed my life, David. This is exactly the kind of cause I want to support, and it's a perfect opportunity to connect with other philanthropists who share our values." What Maya doesn't realize is that the gala will be held at the Grandeur Plaza, one of the dozens of properties within her own hospitality empire. Sterling Hospitality Group owns so many hotels that even Maya cannot keep track of every acquisition. "Should I arrange for the company car?" David asks. "No, I'll take a taxi." Maya replies. "I want this to be personal, not corporate. I'm attending as someone who cares about education, not as a CEO trying to network." Maya carefully plans her outfit. A sophisticated black cocktail dress, elegant but not ostentatious. She wants to look professional without overshadowing the charitable purpose of the evening. The night of the gala, Maya feels excited as she slides into a taxi. She's looking forward to meeting like-minded philanthropists and contributing to a cause that matters deeply to her. As the taxi pulls up to the Grandeur Plaza, Maya experiences a strange moment of déjà vu. The building seems familiar, though she can't place why. She dismisses the feeling and steps onto the sidewalk, taking a deep breath of the cool evening air. She has no idea that within 3 hours she'll be standing in that ballroom, accused of theft by her own employees. Maya approaches the Grandeur Plaza with an anticipatory smile, admiring the hotel's classical architecture. The doorman moves slowly to open the door, his eyes scanning Maya from head to toe with an expression that makes her instinctively straighten her shoulders. "Good evening," Maya says warmly. The doorman nods curtly without returning her smile, holding the door just wide enough for her to pass through. At the reception desk, Maya approaches with confidence. "Good evening. I'm Maya Johnson, here for the Children's Education Gala." The receptionist, Jessica, looks up with a neutral expression that immediately shifts to something cooler. "Name again?" "Maya Johnson." Maya repeats patiently. Jessica scrolls through her computer with deliberate slowness. When she finds Maya's name, her eyebrows rise in surprise. "Oh, here you are. Do you have identification?" Maya notices that white guests aren't being asked for ID. She produces her driver's license without comment, though irritation begins forming in her stomach. In the ballroom, Maya is directed to table 27 in the far corner, near the service entrance. Despite having donated $5,000 for her ticket, she's been relegated to the social equivalent of Siberia. At her table, Maya finds Dr. Patricia Williams, an elegant black woman in her 50s. Dr. Williams' face brightens with relief at seeing another person of color. "Maya Johnson," Maya introduces herself. "Dr. Patricia Williams, neurosurgeon at City General," she replies. "I have to say I'm glad to see a friendly face. The service here has been interesting." Maya glances around the ballroom and sees the difference in treatment immediately. While center tables receive champagne and elaborate hors d'oeuvres, their corner receives standard wine and basic appetizers. "I've noticed that too," Maya agrees. "The atmosphere feels unwelcoming." Dr. Williams lowers her voice. "Look around. Every person of color is seated at the perimeter tables. This is the most segregated seating arrangement I've ever seen at a charity event." During cocktail hour, Maya attempts to mingle, but discovers that conversations tend to die when she approaches groups of white donors. Many create invisible barriers that make meaningful connection impossible. "You handle this with remarkable grace," Dr. Williams observes when Maya returns to their table. "I'm impressed by your patience." Maya sips her wine thoughtfully. "Sometimes you have to pick your battles. Tonight isn't about me. It's about raising money for children who need educational opportunities." Their conversation is interrupted by Margaret Harrison, a woman dripping with jewelry and carrying herself with imperious air. "I'm Margaret Harrison," she announces. "I don't believe I've seen either of you at charity events before. What organizations do you represent?" The question assumes Maya and Dr. Williams couldn't possibly be attending as individual donors. "I'm here as a private supporter of educational initiatives," Maya replies diplomatically. "How wonderful," Mrs. Harrison says condescendingly. "And what line of work allows you to support such causes?" "I work in hospitality," Maya replies simply. Mrs. Harrison's smile becomes even more patronizing. "How nice. It's so important that people in all walks of life contribute what they can." As Mrs. Harrison moves on, Dr. Williams shakes her head. "The condescension is breathtaking." Throughout the evening, Dr. Williams finds herself studying Maya's profile. Something about this poised woman seems familiar, but she can't place where she might have encountered her before. "Maya, forgive me for asking, but your face is so familiar. Do you work in hospital administration?" Maya smiles mysteriously. "No, just hospitality, like I mentioned." Around 9 o'clock, Mrs. Harrison makes a grand production of removing her diamond bracelet before going to the ladies' room. "I never wear my jewelry in public restrooms," she announces loudly. "You never know what kind of people might be lurking around." The comment draws uncomfortable glances toward Maya and Dr. Williams' table. Dr. Williams leans toward Maya. "I have a bad feeling about this." When Mrs. Harrison returns 15 minutes later, she immediately begins patting her wrists frantically. "My bracelet! It's gone! Someone took my diamond bracelet!" The accusation sends a chill through the ballroom as all eyes search for potential suspects, landing exactly where Maya expected they would. The auction portion provides Maya with her first opportunity to make a statement. When a child's painting titled My Dream School comes up for bidding, Maya raises her paddle with determination. She quickly escalates the bidding to $3,500, more than many VIP guests have spent all evening. Murmurs ripple through the ballroom as other bidders drop out, surprised by the aggressive bidding from someone seated at a peripheral table. Dr. Williams watches with growing admiration. You really do care about education, don't you? Every child deserves the chance to dream big and have the resources to make those dreams reality. Maya responds. Education was my way out of poverty, and it can be theirs too. Meanwhile, Mrs. Harrison holds court at the VIP table, displaying her jewelry collection. This bracelet was a gift from my late husband for our 30th anniversary, she announces loudly. The diamonds are from Cartier, worth more than most people's annual salaries. Dr. Williams rolls her eyes. Some people measure their worth by the price of their accessories. During dinner service, the disparity in treatment becomes more apparent. VIP tables receive perfectly prepared filet mignon, while peripheral tables get overcooked chicken that appears to have been kept warm under heat lamps. This is ridiculous, Dr. Williams mutters. We paid the same amount as everyone else. Maya notices their wine glasses remain empty, while servers continuously refill drinks at premium tables. When she attempts to flag down a server, she's ignored repeatedly. As the evening progresses, Maya and Dr. Williams discover they share similar perspectives on social justice and education reform. Their conversation flows naturally, covering everything from systemic inequality to breaking through glass ceilings. You speak about these issues with real insight. Dr. Williams observes. Have you considered getting involved in advocacy work? I try to create change through my work. Maya replies carefully. Sometimes the most effective advocacy happens behind the scenes. Around 9 o'clock, Mrs. Harrison makes a grand production of removing her diamond bracelet before going to the ladies' room. I never wear my jewelry in public restrooms, she announces loudly. You never know what kind of people might be lurking around. The comment draws uncomfortable glances toward Maya and Dr. Williams' table. Dr. Williams leans toward Maya. I have a bad feeling about this. What do you mean? The way she just made a show of leaving that bracelet on the table. The comments about what kind of people. I think we're being set up. When Mrs. Harrison returns 15 minutes later, she immediately begins patting her wrists frantically. My bracelet! It's gone! Someone took my diamond bracelet! The accusation sends a chill through the ballroom. Conversations stop as guests turn to stare at the drama unfolding. Maya feels every eye in the room searching for potential suspects, and she knows exactly where those eyes will land. Richard Sterling appears within minutes, a thin, nervous man who carries himself with the self-importance of someone given small authority. His eyes immediately scan the room, and Maya watches his gaze linger on every person of color present. Mrs. Harrison, please calm down, Richard says. We'll find your bracelet. But Maya can see him cataloguing potential suspects based solely on skin color. The predatory look in his eyes makes her skin crawl. Dr. Williams grabs Maya's hand under the table. Here we go, she whispers grimly. Richard Sterling moves through the ballroom with misplaced confidence. He speaks quietly with white guests near Mrs. Harrison's table, with polite questions and sympathetic nods. Then his trajectory shifts dramatically toward Maya and Dr. Williams. Excuse me, ladies, Richard says, his tone noticeably different. I need to ask you about the missing bracelet. Maya looks up calmly. Of course. How can we help? Did either of you notice anything unusual around Mrs. Harrison's table? Anyone acting suspiciously? Dr. Williams bristles. We've been sitting here all evening. We didn't go anywhere near the VIP section. That's interesting, Richard says with accusatory weight. You've been in this corner all night, which gives you a perfect view of that table, perfect for watching and waiting. Maya feels anger burning in her chest, but keeps her voice level. Mr. Sterling, I suggest you be very careful about the accusations you're making. I'm conducting a thorough investigation, which means I need to search anyone who had the opportunity to take the bracelet. Anyone? Dr. Williams asks pointedly. Or just specific people? I'm going to search everyone who was in the vicinity. Then start with people who were actually sitting at Mrs. Harrison's table, Maya suggests. They had the most direct access. I've already spoken with them. They're all long-standing charity board members, people of impeccable reputation. Dr. Williams stands abruptly. So being wealthy and white automatically makes someone trustworthy. I need to be practical about where I focus my investigation. Richard snaps. Some people here have more reason to steal expensive jewelry than others. Maya rises slowly, her movement drawing attention from nearby tables. Several guests have phones out, recording the confrontation. She looks directly into a camera. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is racial profiling in its most blatant form. This man is accusing us of theft based solely on our skin color, with no evidence whatsoever. That's not true, Richard protests weakly. I'm conducting a standard investigation. A standard investigation that skips the people sitting next to the victim? Dr. Williams challenges. The crowd has grown larger, with guests moving closer to watch. Some look uncomfortable while others nod along with Richard's suspicions. I'm going to have to search your purses, Richard declares, signaling for security guards. This is hotel policy. Maya's hands tremble with rage, not fear. What hotel policy requires you to search only black guests? We're searching everyone who refuses to cooperate. You haven't asked anyone else to cooperate, Dr. Williams points out. Maya pulls out her phone and dials while maintaining eye contact with Richard. David, I need legal support immediately. Yes, at the Grandeur Plaza. I'm being accused of theft and about to be illegally searched. Richard looks uncertain, but Mrs. Harrison's wailing pushes him forward. Ma'am, hang up that phone and submit to a search. Based on what probable cause? Maya asks, her legal knowledge evident. What specific evidence do you have that either Dr. Williams or I committed a crime? The evidence is that the bracelet is missing and you two were in position to take it. So were 50 other people. Why aren't you searching them? Richard's face flushes red. Because they don't fit the profile. The words hang like a confession. Dr. Williams laughs bitterly. The profile? At least you're honest about your racism. Maya opens her purse voluntarily. You want to search my bag? Go ahead. But I want everyone here to understand that you're doing this because I'm black, not because you have evidence. The security guard rifles through Maya's purse, roughly, examining every item twice. Lipstick, wallet, keys, phone charger, business cards, nothing resembling a diamond bracelet. When the search yields nothing, Richard's expression doesn't change. She could have hidden it somewhere else or passed it to an accomplice. An accomplice? Dr. Williams is incredulous. You mean another black person because we all know each other, right? Maya closes her purse with deliberate calm. Mr. Sterling, I strongly advise you to stop this investigation and check your security cameras instead of continuing this racially motivated harassment. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you professional advice as someone who understands liability and public relations. Maya's voice carries an undertone, suggesting she knows more than she's revealing. When Richard threatens to call police, Maya's composure shows cracks, but she maintains dignity. Call them, she says, her voice like steel. Call the police and explain how you decided to accuse 2 professional women of theft without evidence. In the background, Mrs. Harrison continues sobbing. But Dr. Williams, trained to observe details under pressure, suddenly freezes. Wait, she says quietly to Maya. Maya Johnson, Sterling Hospitality Group. Recognition dawns in her eyes, but she makes a conscious decision to remain silent, sensing Maya has a plan. Social media explosion has begun. Videos spread with hashtags like #CharityGalaScandal. Comments pour in supporting Maya and condemning the hotel's actions. But Maya doesn't need social media vindication. She has something much more powerful. The ballroom falls into hushed tension when a group of well-dressed professionals enters through the main doors. Leading them is David Chen, Maya's CFO, flanked by 2 lawyers and a PR specialist. Their presence immediately shifts the power dynamic in the room. "Ms. Johnson," David says formally as he approaches, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to handling corporate crises. "We came as soon as we received your call." Richard Sterling looks confused by this development. He had expected Maya to call a friend or perhaps a local attorney, not a team of professionals who move with the confidence of people managing a major corporation. "Thank you, David," Maya replies, her demeanor transforming from defensive to commanding. "I believe Mr. Sterling here needs to understand the gravity of his actions tonight." David Chen steps forward, his expression serious. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to clarify something important. This is Ms. Maya Johnson, Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Hospitality Group." The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Conversations stop completely. Mrs. Harrison's sobbing ceases abruptly. Richard Sterling's face drains of color as the implications crash over him like a tidal wave. The CEO?" Richard stammers, his voice barely above a whisper. "Of Sterling Hospitality Group?" "That's correct," David confirms. "The same Sterling Hospitality Group that owns this hotel, among many others. Ms. Johnson is your ultimate boss, Mr. Sterling." To Williams allows herself a small smile of vindication. "I knew I recognized you from somewhere. Forbes magazine, last year's profile on influential women in business." Maya nods toward Dr. Williams with appreciation before turning her attention back to Richard, whose entire body language has transformed from aggressive confidence to panicked desperation. "Ms. Johnson, I had no idea. I would never have—" Richard's words tumble over each other as sweat beads on his forehead. "If I had known who you were, and that," Maya says, her voice cutting through his stammering, "is precisely the problem, Mr. Sterling. Your behavior shouldn't change based on who I am. Every guest in this hotel deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their race or perceived social status." The revelation sends shockwaves through the crowd. Guests who had been recording the confrontation now find themselves witnesses to something far more significant than a simple theft accusation. They're watching a real-time lesson in power, privilege, and the consequences of prejudice. Mrs. Harrison, realizing the magnitude of the situation, attempts to approach Maya with her hands outstretched. "Ms. Johnson, I am so terribly sorry. I had no idea who you were. I was just upset about my bracelet." Maya regards Mrs. Harrison with a mixture of sadness and disappointment. "Mrs. Harrison, the problem isn't that you didn't know who I was. The problem is that you immediately assumed I was a thief based on nothing more than the color of my skin." Dr. Williams stands beside Maya, no longer just a fellow victim, but an ally witnessing justice unfold. What Maya is trying to tell you is that respect and basic human decency shouldn't depend on someone's title or wealth. Meanwhile, David's team has already accessed the hotel's security system. One of the lawyers approaches with a tablet in hand. "Ms. Johnson, we've reviewed the footage from the ballroom cameras." "And what did you find?" Maya asks, though her tone suggests she already knows. "Mrs. Harrison removed her bracelet herself when she went to the ladies' room. The footage clearly shows her placing it on the vanity counter and leaving it there." All eyes turn to Mrs. Harrison, whose face cycles through confusion, realization, and deep shame. "The vanity counter? But I thought I put it back on." "Perhaps you should check the ladies' room," Maya suggests gently, her anger giving way to something that looks almost like pity. Mrs. Harrison hurries away, accompanied by a female security guard. Within 5 minutes, they return with a recovered diamond bracelet. Mrs. Harrison's face is flushed with embarrassment and genuine remorse. "I found it exactly where the camera showed," she admits, her voice small and ashamed. "Right where I left it. Ms. Johnson, I owe you an enormous apology. I was wrong, not just about the bracelet, but about everything." Maya accepts the apology with grace that surprises even herself. "Mrs. Harrison, this is an opportunity for all of us to learn and grow. The question is what we do with this moment." Richard Sterling stands frozen, understanding that his career is likely over. "Ms. Johnson, I have a family. I was just trying to do my job." Maya looks at him with a mixture of disappointment and resignation. "Mr. Sterling, doing your job means protecting all guests equally, not profiling them based on unconscious bias. Your actions tonight were not just wrong, they were legally actionable and morally reprehensible." She turns to address the entire room, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to addressing boardrooms and industry conferences. "What happened here tonight is a perfect example of why we still have so much work to do on equality and inclusion. It's not enough to say we're not racist. We must actively work to create environments where discrimination cannot thrive." Dr. Williams steps forward to offer her support. "Maya, what you've demonstrated tonight, maintaining your dignity under such circumstances, that takes tremendous strength." "Patricia," Maya replies, using Dr. Williams' first name for the first time, "you stood by me when I was just another guest being mistreated. That kind of allyship is exactly what creates real change." The crowd watches in fascination as Maya handles the situation with a combination of firmness and compassion that demonstrates true leadership. She's not seeking revenge, she's creating a teachable moment. "Mr. Sterling," Maya announces, "your employment at this hotel is terminated, effective immediately. However, I encourage you to use this experience to examine your biases and become a better person." Richard nods numbly, understanding that he's fortunate not to face legal consequences for his actions. The transformation in the room is palpable. Guests who had remained silent during Maya's humiliation now step forward to offer support and apologies. The incident has forced everyone present to confront their own assumptions and potential biases. Mrs. Harrison approaches Maya once more, tears streaming down her face. "Miss Johnson, how can I make this right? How can I begin to repair the damage I've caused?" Maya considers the question carefully. "Use your privilege and influence to ensure this never happens to anyone else. Become an advocate for change instead of a perpetrator of the status quo." Maya addresses the assembled crowd without triumph, only sadness. "I hope tonight will be remembered not for the discrimination that occurred, but for how we choose to respond moving forward." Dr. Williams stands beside her, their friendship forged in shared injustice. "Maya has shown us what grace under pressure looks like. More importantly, she's demonstrated that dignity isn't dependent on titles or recognition." The ballroom atmosphere has transformed completely. Where there had been uncomfortable tension and whispered judgments, there's now reflection, and for many, shame. Guests who remained silent during Maya's ordeal now offer support and apologies. Mrs. Harrison, still clutching her recovered bracelet, approaches with genuine tears. "Ms. Johnson, I want to do more than apologize. I want to make real changes. I sit on 3 charity boards and 2 cultural institutions. I want to ensure they examine their policies for bias and fund diversity training." Maya studies Mrs. Harrison's face, searching for sincerity. What she sees appears to be genuine transformation. "Those are meaningful commitments, Mrs. Harrison. I hope you'll follow through." Dr. Williams offers her expertise. "If you're serious about bias training, I can recommend excellent programs. In medicine, we've learned that good intentions aren't enough. We need systematic approaches. Richard Sterling approaches reluctantly, his face pale and hands shaking. Miss Johnson, I know I have no right to ask, but I have 2 young children. My wife is pregnant. When word gets out... Maya looks at him without cruelty or sympathy. Mr. Sterling, you should have considered those consequences before choosing to discriminate. Your children deserve better than a father who perpetuates injustice. I know I was wrong. Is there any way I can make this right? Maya considers carefully. The way you make this right is by learning from this experience and never letting it happen again. Take time to understand your biases, educate yourself, and find ways to become part of the solution. Dr. Williams suggests, some organizations hire reformed individuals to speak about their experiences and help others recognize similar patterns. The conversation expands as other guests offer their own reflections and commitments. A businessman admits he remained silent because he was uncomfortable getting involved. A society matron acknowledges making assumptions about Maya based on her seating. This is what accountability looks like, Dr. Williams observes. Not just punishment, but genuine reflection and commitment to change. Maya addresses the group around them. Tonight could have been just another forgotten story of discrimination, but if we all commit to examining our biases and creating more inclusive environments, something positive can come from this experience. David Chen approaches with updates. Maya, the footage is already viral on social media. The response has been overwhelmingly supportive, and several news outlets are requesting interviews. We should use that attention responsibly. Maya responds. This isn't about personal vindication. It's about highlighting systemic issues affecting countless people who don't have resources to fight back. Dr. Williams nods. Maya, would you consider partnering with me on broader diversity initiatives, not just in hospitality, but across industries? I'd be honored, Patricia, but let's include voices from communities most affected by these issues. Real change requires input from people who experience discrimination daily. Mrs. Harrison steps forward again. I'd like to fund those initiatives, not to buy forgiveness, but as commitment to being part of the solution. Maya looks around at people who, hours earlier, had been strangers or adversaries. This is how change happens. One conversation, one commitment, one person at a time. But it requires ongoing effort, not just good intentions. The evening concludes with concrete commitments. Mrs. Harrison pledges funding for diversity programs. Dr. Williams agrees to consult on bias recognition. Business leaders commit to examining their practices. Even Richard Sterling agrees to participate in education programs. As the ballroom empties, Maya and Dr. Williams stand together, 2 women who arrived as strangers and leave as allies. Maya, Dr. Williams says, you turned what could have been traumatic into a teaching moment. That takes extraordinary strength. Patricia, you stood by me when you had no obligation. That's the kind of allyship that creates real change. Maya replies, this evening reminded me why this work matters. Not just for people who look like us, but for everyone who believes in justice. 3 months after the charity gala, Maya sits in her office reviewing the transformation across Sterling Hospitality Group. Employee satisfaction scores have increased by 23%. Discrimination complaints have dropped by 67%, and revenue has improved as hotels become more welcoming to diverse clientele. Dr. Patricia Williams joins Maya for lunch, their friendship having deepened through shared purpose. Over salads in Maya's executive dining room, they discuss the unexpected aftermath of their confrontation. I've been thinking about what happened that night, Patricia reflects. Obviously, the discrimination was terrible, but watching you handle it with such grace, that was truly inspiring. You could have destroyed Richard Sterling and humiliated Mrs. Harrison publicly, but you chose a different path. Maya considers Patricia's words carefully. Revenge might have felt satisfying in the moment, but it wouldn't have created lasting change. People learn and grow when they're challenged with compassion, not when they're destroyed by anger. That's wisdom that comes from experience, isn't it? This wasn't your first encounter with discrimination. No, Maya admits. I've faced it in boardrooms, at industry conferences, even in hotels that I own but don't personally manage. The difference that night was having witnesses and cameras. Most discrimination happens in private, where there's no accountability. Their partnership has already begun taking shape. Maya's hospitality group is implementing comprehensive bias training across all properties, while Patricia is developing similar programs for healthcare systems. They're also collaborating on research, studying the psychological and economic impacts of workplace discrimination. I received an interesting call yesterday. Maya shares. Mrs. Harrison wants to do more than just fund our initiatives. She wants to be actively involved. She's requesting meetings with diversity experts, even considering sharing her story publicly. People can change, Patricia observes, though I'm cautiously optimistic. Real transformation takes sustained effort. Richard Sterling just completed his first unconscious bias workshop. Maya adds, his instructor says he's been one of the most engaged participants she's ever had. The conversation shifts to their shared vision for systemic change. Both women understand that addressing discrimination requires more than individual awareness. It demands structural reforms in hiring practices, promotion policies, and organizational cultures. I've been speaking with my 15-year-old daughter about all of this, Maya shares. She asked me whether I was afraid that night at the hotel. What did you tell her? I told her that fear isn't the opposite of courage. It's the reason we need courage. I was absolutely terrified, not just of being falsely accused, but of how the situation might escalate. But I couldn't let that fear prevent me from standing up for what's right. Patricia's eyes soften with understanding. That's a powerful lesson for a young woman. She's lucky to have you as a role model. Maya's phone buzzes with updates on the company's diversity initiatives. Employee confidence in reporting discrimination has increased dramatically, and they're seeing increased enrollment in voluntary bias training programs. The ripple effects continue to spread, Maya observes. We have tools and platforms now that can create change more quickly than ever before. But they only work if people are willing to use them responsibly. Their lunch concludes with both women feeling energized by their shared commitment to change. They've discovered that their friendship, forged in the fires of injustice, has become a powerful force for broader transformation. Maya, Patricia says as they prepare to return to work, that night taught us about assumptions. Everyone in that room made assumptions. About you, about me, about each other. The work we're doing isn't just about preventing discrimination. It's about encouraging people to question their assumptions about everyone they encounter. That's exactly right, Maya responds. Change happens one interaction at a time, one conversation at a time, one person choosing to think differently about another human being. 6 months after the charity gala incident, Maya and Dr. Patricia Williams stand before an audience of 500 hospitality industry leaders at the annual National Hotel Conference. Their presentation, titled From Crisis to Change, Building Inclusive Excellence, has drawn attendees from across the country who want to understand how to transform discriminatory practices into opportunities for growth. Or, 6 months ago, I was falsely accused of theft at one of my own hotels. Maya begins, her voice steady and confident. That night could have ended in litigation, public relations disasters, and deepened divisions. Instead, it became the catalyst for the most meaningful work of my career. Patricia steps forward to continue the narrative. What Maya demonstrated that evening wasn't just personal resilience. It was leadership. She showed us that our response to injustice defines us more than the injustice itself. The audience listens intently, as Maya shares specific data about the changes implemented across Sterling Hospitality Group. Employee satisfaction scores have increased by 23%. Customer complaints related to service disparities have dropped by 67%, and revenue has actually improved as hotels become more welcoming to diverse clientele. The business case for inclusion isn't just about doing the right thing, Maya explains. It's about creating environments where all employees can perform at their best and all customers feel valued. Discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's economically inefficient. Patricia presents research from healthcare systems that have implemented similar changes. When organizations eliminate bias from their practices, everyone benefits. Patient outcomes improve, employee retention increases, and innovation flourishes because diverse perspectives are valued and heard. During the question and answer session, a hotel manager from the audience stands up. Ms. Johnson, what advice do you have for those of us who want to create change but face resistance from ownership or senior management? Maya's response is both practical and inspiring. Start with data. Document the costs of discrimination, employee turnover, customer complaints, legal risks, reputation damage. Then propose solutions that align with business objectives. Change often happens when you can demonstrate that inclusion drives profitability. Another participant asks about handling staff who resist diversity training. Patricia answers this one. Resistance often comes from fear. Fear of being judged, fear of making mistakes, fear of change itself. Create safe spaces for honest dialogue. Acknowledge that everyone has biases to examine, and focus on growth rather than punishment. The presentation concludes with a powerful video testimonial from Mrs. Harrison, who has become an unexpected advocate for change. On screen, she speaks candidly about her transformation. That night at the charity gala, I learned that my privilege had blinded me to my prejudices. Maya Johnson could have destroyed me publicly, but instead she challenged me to become better. Today, I use my voice and resources to ensure others don't repeat my mistakes. The video also features Richard Sterling, who has become a trainer for unconscious bias workshops across the hospitality industry. I lost my job because of my discriminatory actions, he admits. But I gained something more valuable, an understanding of how bias hurts everyone. Now I help other managers recognize and address their own prejudices before they cause harm. As the conference session ends, attendees line up to speak with Maya and Patricia personally. Young professionals of color thank them for providing role models and practical strategies. White colleagues ask for resources to examine their own biases. Industry leaders request partnerships to implement similar programs in their organizations. This is how change spreads, Patricia observes as they watch the animated conversations throughout the conference hall. One person sharing their story, one organization implementing new policies, one leader choosing courage over comfort. Maya nods, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. That night at the hotel, I was angry and hurt and frustrated, but I'm grateful now for what it taught us all about the power of choosing growth over grievance. Later that evening, Maya and Patricia join a smaller gathering of diversity advocates and industry leaders. The conversation is intimate and honest, focusing on sustainable strategies for creating lasting change. The work is far from over, Maya acknowledges. Discrimination didn't disappear because one incident was handled well, but we've proven that individual actions can create ripple effects that transform entire industries. A young hotel manager shares her own story of facing discrimination and finding inspiration in Maya's example. Watching the video of that night changed how I respond to bias in my workplace. Instead of staying silent or getting defensive, I ask questions and create opportunities for education. Patricia emphasizes the importance of allyship. Change requires people with privilege to use their voices and resources to support those who face discrimination. Maya and I can share our experiences, but we need allies at every level of every organization to create truly inclusive environments. The gathering concludes with participants making concrete commitments: funding for bias training programs, partnerships with diversity organizations, mentorship opportunities for underrepresented professionals, and policies that create accountability for inclusive behavior. As Maya and Patricia finally say goodbye that evening, they reflect on the unexpected journey that brought them together and the work that lies ahead. Patricia, when I walked into that charity gala 6 months ago, I thought I was just attending a fundraiser. Maya says, I never imagined it would become the most transformative experience of my professional life. Sometimes our greatest challenges become our most powerful opportunities. Patricia replies, You turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for change. That's the definition of leadership. Maya smiles, thinking about the young professionals who now see new possibilities for their careers, the organizations implementing fairer practices, and the individuals who have chosen to examine and change their biases. The message I want people to remember is this, Maya says. Don't let injustice harden your heart or dim your hope. Let it strengthen your resolve to create the world you want to see. Every person has the power to make a difference through their choices, their voice, and their actions. Patricia adds her own reflection. And remember that change is possible for everyone. Mrs. Harrison transformed from perpetrator to advocate. Richard Sterling went from discriminator to educator. People can grow, organizations can evolve, and society can become more just, but only if we're willing to do the work. As they part ways, both women carry with them a renewed sense of purpose. The charity gala that began with accusation and injustice has become a story of redemption, growth, and hope. It proves that even in moments of darkness, we can choose to light candles rather than curse the darkness. The final message is clear. Change begins with one person, one moment, one choice to do better. Today is always a good day to start.